You will spend roughly 26 years of your life sleeping, and almost every single night, you are going to get it wrong. Most people think sleep was always supposed to look like this. One long, uninterrupted block of rest. That this is how humans were designed to sleep. But that is not entirely true. The reality goes much deeper than that. And once you understand it, the way you see your brain, your body, and the night itself starts to change. Because this is the part nobody tells you. Tonight, when you turn off your light and close your eyes, your body is going to try to do something ancient, something it has been trying to do for nearly 300,000 years. And every morning you wake up feeling foggy, exhausted, or slightly disconnected, that is not just a sleep problem. It is a signal. Your body trying to tell you that something important was taken away, not gradually, not over centuries, almost instantly, within a single generation. And most people never even realized it disappeared. Think about this for a second. Every single one of your ancestors lived their entire life without a light switch. When the sun went down, the world became truly dark. Not dim, not manageable, completely dark. The kind of darkness where you could not even see your own hand a few inches from your face. Modern humans almost never experience that anymore. But for most of human history, darkness was not something humans tried to escape from or destroy with artificial light. It was something the brain was built to use. And hidden inside that darkness was a mental state so restorative, so powerful, and so deeply human that when we lost it, we lost far more than sleep. We lost something we do not even have a word for anymore. And this is where the story really begins. Not with sleep itself, but with the reason darkness mattered in the first place. To understand what the night once meant, you have to start with fire. Before humans learned to control it, we lived like every other animal on this planet. When the sun disappeared, everything stopped. You found somewhere to hide, stayed still, and waited for morning. Because moving through the dark did not make you powerful. It made you vulnerable. Look at the creatures that owned the night back then. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, animals built for darkness, perfect night vision, sharper hearing, faster reactions. And humans? Compared to the predators hunting us, our ability to see in the dark was almost useless. For a very long time, the night did not belong to us. It belonged to them. Then something changed. Roughly 1 million years ago, our ancestors learned how to control fire. And that discovery did far more than keep people warm or cook food. It completely changed what it meant to be human. Because a campfire is not just heat, it is a boundary. Inside the circle of firelight, there was safety. Outside it, danger. And for the first time, predators lost their advantage. Not because they feared the flames themselves, but because fire destroyed the darkness they relied on. That was their weapon. And suddenly, humans had found a way to take it away. For the first time in history, people gained something no other creature on Earth truly had: usable time after sunset. Before fire, the day ended when the light disappeared, maybe 8 hours in winter, a little longer in summer. But after fire, humans suddenly gained 2, 3, sometimes 4 extra hours every single night. That may not sound important now, but spread those extra hours across thousands of generations and millions of human lives, and something enormous starts to happen. Those hours were not empty time. They became the foundation for something entirely new, because people sitting around those fires were not silently staring into the flames. They were doing something no other species had ever done before, and it all began with a voice. During the day, ancient humans mostly talked about survival, where they had found water, which direction the animals moved, who was slowing the group down, who was carrying more than they should. Everything was practical, direct, necessary. Daytime conversation was basically one long survival meeting. But once the sun disappeared and the fire came alive, something shifted completely. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying one of the last hunter-gatherer groups still living in a way that resembled early human life. She recorded thousands of conversations during both day and night, and what she discovered was remarkable. Throughout the daytime, nearly 80% of conversations were focused on practical concerns, resources, work, conflict, logistics. But after sunset, once people gathered around the fire, the entire atmosphere changed. More than 80% of conversations suddenly became stories. Not gossip, not complaints, just stories. Stories about distant people and unfamiliar places. Myths explaining forces nobody could see. Jokes that made everyone laugh hard enough to forget the cold around them. And this matters far more than most people realize. because storytelling was never just entertainment. It was how humans transferred knowledge across generations. A grandmother sitting beside a fire could pass 60 years of wisdom to a child in a single night. A hunter could describe a danger so vividly that people who had never seen it would recognize it instantly if they ever encountered it themselves. A powerful story could teach lessons in minutes that real experience might take decades to learn. Wiesner described fireside conversation as the cradle of human culture, the first classroom, the first library, the first place where belief itself was formed. Every myth, every lesson, and every shared worldview. All of it traces back to groups of humans sitting together in firelit darkness, listening, speaking, and imagining. But while all of this was happening around the fire, something equally important was happening inside the human body, something the brain had been doing quietly in the background every single night, and modern science completely overlooked it for more than a century. Here is something most people never realize. Multiple times every single night, your body still tries to sleep the way humans were originally designed to sleep, but almost nobody lives that way anymore. Not even close. For most of human history, people did not sleep in one long, uninterrupted stretch. Not ancient humans, not medieval Europeans, not even people living just a few centuries ago. That version of sleep is actually very new. Historian Roger Ekirch spent 16 years studying historical records from everyday human life. Prayer books, medical texts, court documents, personal journals dating back hundreds of years, and across 5 centuries of writing, he kept finding the exact same pattern repeated again and again. First, sleep. Second, sleep. 2 completely separate phases of sleep every night. That was normal human life for generations. People would go to sleep shortly after sunset and rest for around 4 hours. Then, sometime in the middle of the night, they would naturally wake up. Not because they were stressed, not because something was wrong. They simply woke up calmly, and for an hour or 2 hours, they stayed awake before eventually falling back asleep until sunrise. Nobody considered this strange. Nobody thought they had insomnia. That was just what nighttime felt like. But this is where things get interesting. What exactly were people doing during those quiet hours in the middle of the night? A French physician writing in the 1500s described it in detail. People reflected on dreams while they were still vivid. They prayed. They wrote. Some visited neighbors. Others simply lay awake in silence, thinking. One medical text from that period even claimed those hours between first and second sleep were the single best time for deep reflection, because the mind became unusually calm and clear in that state. Not groggy, not restless, but something else entirely. A mental state modern people rarely experience anymore. And the strangest part is that when scientists finally decided to test whether this ancient sleep pattern was real, they discovered something happening inside the brain during that wakeful period that nobody expected. Back in 1992, a psychiatrist named Thomas Ware conducted an experiment that should have completely changed the way we think about sleep. He took a group of volunteers and removed every source of artificial light from their lives. No light bulbs, no screens, no glowing city light leaking through curtains at night. Just natural darkness. 14 straight hours of it every single night. The same kind of darkness human beings lived with for hundreds of thousands of years. Then he waited. At first, nothing unusual happened. People simply felt tired earlier than normal and started going to bed sooner. But after a few weeks, something extraordinary began to happen. Without instructions, without suggestions, without being told what researchers expected to see. Every participant slowly drifted into the exact same sleep pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours awake in the middle of the night, then another 4 hours of sleep before morning. The exact same pattern historian Roger Ekirch had uncovered in centuries of historical records. It was as if the body already knew what to do, like the pattern had been buried somewhere deep inside them the entire time, hidden underneath artificial light, modern schedules, and constant stimulation, just waiting for the right conditions to return. But this is where the experiment became even stranger. Ware was not only observing behavior, he was measuring what was happening inside the body during those quiet hours of wakefulness. And what he found looked nothing like a normal waking state. Participants were producing unusually high levels of prolactin, a hormone most people associate with entirely different functions, but one also deeply connected to states of calm, meditation, and emotional stillness. The participants did not describe feeling fully awake in the normal sense. They described something quieter, a strange feeling of peaceful awareness, reflective, dreamlike, but conscious at the same time, not groggy, not restless. One participant even said it was the clearest they had felt in their entire adult life. This was not insomnia. It was not a disorder. It was a completely different state of consciousness, one humans may have experienced naturally for thousands of generations. And we did not slowly lose it over time. We erased it almost overnight. And the thing that replaced it became so normal, so universal, and so deeply woven into modern life that almost nobody ever stopped to question it. It started with street lamps. In the 1600s, cities began fighting back against darkness itself. Louis XIV ordered lanterns to be installed throughout the streets of Paris, not because people feared discomfort, but because governments feared what happened in the dark. Crime belonged to the night, so they tried to erase the night itself. Then came London, then more cities, then smaller towns. And slowly, darkness stopped being something humans merely survived. It became something humans controlled. Once that happened, there was no going back. Candles became cheaper. Gas lamps spread through cities during the 1800s. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. And within a single generation, the version of night humans had lived inside for hundreds of thousands of years simply disappeared, not adapted, not gradually transformed, but erased. And your body is still dealing with the consequences of that right now. Modern humans spend 7 or 8 hours exposed to artificial light after sunset almost every night. The problem is that your brain does not truly understand the difference between sunlight and a light bulb. When bright light hits your eyes late at night, your brain still interprets it as daytime. That interrupts melatonin production. It delays the biological signals designed to pull you towards sleep and recovery. And the effects show up everywhere. The foggy feeling in the morning, the crash in the middle of the afternoon, that strange exhaustion where you technically slept enough hours but still never feel fully rested. That is not a personal failure. It is a biological system operating in conditions it was never designed for. Researchers have even found that when people spend just 1 week camping without artificial light, their natural melatonin cycle shifts by nearly 2 full hours. 1 week. That is all it takes for ancient biological patterns to start returning on their own, which means the old system is probably still there, not broken, not erased by evolution, just hidden. Hidden underneath phone screens, LED bulbs, glowing cities, and streetlights leaking through bedroom curtains at midnight. And the strangest part is what we lost along with it. That quiet, reflective, deeply still mental state that once existed between first and second sleep was never replaced with something better. We replaced it with insomnia, then convinced people they were the problem. But what if there is nothing wrong with you? What if your body has been trying to tell you something every single night, and modern life has simply become too loud for you to hear it? So think about this for a moment. At some point this week, you are going to wake up in the middle of the night, maybe midnight, maybe 2 in the morning, or maybe closer to 3, and your first instinct will probably be to fight it. You will reach for your phone, turn on a screen, fill the silence with noise and light until your brain feels tired enough to collapse back into sleep. But now you understand what that moment might actually be. Not a malfunction, not your body betraying you, not proof that something is wrong with your mind. It may simply be 300,000 years of biology surfacing through the silence for a few brief moments. Your ancestors did not panic during that window. They did not immediately search for distraction. They stayed still. They reflected on dreams while the images were still vivid. They sat quietly with their own thoughts in a mental state, so calm and unusually clear that modern science had to run controlled experiments just to rediscover it. And this is where everything starts coming together. Today, people spend billions of dollars searching for calm minds and better sleep, like meditation apps, sleep supplements, therapies, white noise machines, and the devices promising to reduce stress and quiet the brain. All of us chasing a state our ancestors experienced naturally almost every single night, not through optimization, not through productivity hacks, simply by allowing darkness to do what darkness was meant to do. Humans were never designed to conquer the night. We were shaped inside it. Darkness was not just an obstacle our ancestors survived. It was the environment that helped make them psychologically human. The stories around the fire, the silence, the strange second awakening where the mind could finally hear itself think clearly. All of that disappeared the moment artificial light took control of the night. And maybe the most important realization is this: you are not a modern person with a broken sleep system. You are an ancient mind living beneath artificial stars, trying to remember something it was never supposed to forget. So tonight, try something simple. Turn the lights off for a few minutes longer than usual. Sit in real darkness without distraction and pay attention to what happens. That strange, quiet feeling, that alert stillness, that oddly familiar sense of calm. There is nothing new about it. That may be the oldest version of you finally getting room to breathe again. And if you think darkness is the only thing modern life quietly stole from human beings, there is more. Something hidden inside your everyday routine. Something that shaped human behavior for hundreds of thousands of years, yet most people now do completely wrong. And that is where this goes next.